everybody, it's Chris Bummer here for JoBlo, and guess where I am? I'm in Las Vegas at CinemaCon, and you know what? It's like 6:30 local time here, and I'm still sober, dangerously sober even. Why am I sober? Because I just came out of the CinemaCon presentation for Warner Brothers, where they basically showed us footage from all their upcoming movies, and boy, oh boy, did I see some amazing stuff. So I think the thing that everybody's going to be talking about right now is the Joker Folie Deux trailer. Of course, you've all seen this because it just dropped online. So I'm going to get to it a little bit later. I'm going to focus on the stuff that we saw that you guys aren't going to be seeing for a little bit. So I'm going to give you my impressions of what I've seen. I'm sorry that you can't actually watch the trailers with me, but I saw some really cool stuff. So I'll try to describe it as best as I can. So I think in addition to Joker Folie Deux, the one that everybody's going to be really interested in hearing about is going to be Beetlejuice. So I would say that I liked the teaser trailer, but I didn't love it because to me, it seemed a little too self-serious. And, when I think of Beetlejuice, I think of when I was a kid watching it, and I always thought of it as an outrageous comedy, right? And I didn't laugh once in the trailer that I had seen. So that kind of made me a little bit nervous, but they unrolled the whole trailer for this CinemaCon special thing that we were at, and it's going to drop soon. And I think that anybody that was kind of wary of the first teaser trailer is going to absolutely love this because you get to see Michael Keaton really in action as Beetlejuice, right? And man, this guy has not he's not lost a step. It's amazing. He looks the same as Beetlejuice as he did in 1988 because let's face it, Beetlejuice was always supposed to look like shit, right? So, the fact that Michael Keaton's in his 70s now really doesn't make that much of a difference, and his energy level is still amazing. I mean, he looks like he's having the time of his life. There's so many cool special effects in the trailer. It's all practical. There's a part where he says he's spilling his guts and his guts just fall out and it's all rubber. It's deliciously tacky. I really like it. Everything that I saw from this little behind the scenes featurette that they had to the trailer makes me think that this is going to be an awesome movie. And what was funny is that Michael Keaton actually showed up with Tim Burton, Willem Dafoe, Justin Theroux, and Monica Bellucci, and Catherine O'Hara to promote the movie. And Keaton is an interesting guy. I've interviewed him before. I really liked him, but he's very cool. He's very laid back and very calm, but he seems hyped by this movie. He kept saying, I think he said like 3 or 4 times how much he loved the movie in the presentation, saying that he watched it twice, right? And if you watch Keaton interviews, he's not the kind of guy who hypes up his own work that much. He's always like, I let the work speak for itself.
Me?
The snake.
No, what snake, you kids in your imagination? Just say it.
Where he seemed so psyched because he said it was kind of like a family reunion for him because he hadn't seen these people in 30 years. And he even said in his Beetlejuice voice, and it was great, that it's really fucking good. So I have to say, as a kid that grew up watching Michael Keaton in comedies, I am very, very excited for Beetlejuice 2. I'm much more psyched for it than I was when I saw the trailer, the teaser trailer anyway. And I think that when this new trailer drops, people are going to really be excited for this. The interesting thing that was very quick is that everybody did mention that in the teaser trailer for Beetlejuice, it seemed that Jeffrey Jones's character had died and they were at his funeral. If you follow this story at all, you know that Jeffrey Jones has been at the center of a little bit of controversy for various things I'm not going to go into here. And they did find a way to bring him back without bringing back the actor, who it seems that they aren't really in a rush to re-employ. I'm not going to give it up here, but it's kind of cool. And it's very much in the vein of some other cool Tim Burton movies that you might like Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride. So take from that what you will. Okay, so what are we going to get into next? I guess I will talk about Joker Folie Deux a little bit. You saw exactly what I saw, the trailer. It's a musical Fantasia, although Todd Phillips did say that he doesn't consider it a musical. He just says that musical is an essential component to the movie, as it was in the first film, which is right. Because, if you watch the first movie, what are the moments that you remember? You remember him dancing down the steps to Rock and Roll Part 1, right? So this looks very much in the same vein. It looks like it's inspired by Francis Ford Coppola's One from the Heart, right? Which is this infamous flop, but is kind of a wonderful movie if you go back and rewatch it. And I don't know, man, this looks like it could be an absolute masterpiece in some ways. Phillips said something really interesting earlier on because he wanted to thank the exhibitors because he said that the narrative around the first film had gotten really weird before it came out, where everybody was just assuming that, that the Joker was going to be a dangerous movie, right? That it was going to inspire this antisocial rabble to go nuts and that they shouldn't even be playing in theaters. If you remember, this was kind of peak PC culture, right? And I remember seeing it at TIFF and critics screaming at me for giving it a good review because they all said it's this dangerous movie. And of course, it was complete nonsense. The movie comes out and makes $1 billion, and everybody likes it regardless of where you fall in the political spectrum. And it really looks like the sequel is going to be amazing. It was written for Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. The music looks amazing. The staging looks amazing. Here's an interesting thing, though, and I don't know if any of you agree with me having watched the trailer. It seems like Harley Quinn might be a figment of Arthur Fleck, aka the Joker's imagination. I might be wrong, but I don't know. It's just the vibe that I seem to get off the movie, but it looks amazing. Next, what I'm going to get to is another trailer that you're probably not going to see for a while. Mickey 17. So this is Bong Joon-ho's new movie with Robert Pattinson. And in it, he plays this worker who's signed on to become what they call an expendable. Not an expendable in the Sly Stallone manner, by the way. An expendable meaning he works for this corporation that's heartless, and his job is very dangerous because he's always being put in harm's way. And when he dies, there's just like a reprint of him that comes out, right? And there's been 17 versions of him so far. Bong Joon-ho was actually on stage and he said something interesting. It was based on a book called Mickey 7, but he changed it to Mickey 17 because in the book they kill Mickey 7 times, and in the film they kill him 17 times because he wanted to make it a lot more excessive. So I think this trailer might really divide people when it comes out, because if you've seen Okja and if you've seen The Host, Bong Joon-ho has a very interesting sense of humor. Right? A sense of humor that might not necessarily be something that's natural in North America. And I think that if you watch the trailer, it has this kind of comedic vibe, especially in terms of Robert Pattinson's performance, that might rub some people the wrong way, especially what he's doing with his voice. You might think to yourself, oh, how am I going to follow this character around for 2 hours? I do think it's one of those things, though, that when you watch a short clip from it in a trailer, it may not work completely, but when you watch it in a movie, it might be brilliant. Or it might be awful. I mean, we'll see. It's kind of strange that Warner Brothers is putting it out in January, as it was a movie that was shot for IMAX. You'd think it would be a Christmas time release. It definitely does look somewhat uncommercial, though. So I'm very curious to see how that film pans out. But Robert Pattinson was there and he seemed psyched. And, you know, Bong Joon-ho is an amazing director. So, I mean, even if it's not a perfect movie, I think it'll at least be an interesting one. But who knows? It might become a classic. You never know. Another movie that was really interesting to see promoted at CinemaCon was Horizon Part 1 and 2. Kevin Costner was there to accept a Visionary in Cinema award. And it was interesting because he was choked up accepting it, because what happened when he got the award was that everybody that were the exhibitors gave him a standing ovation. And it seemed like he wasn't expecting that. And he got really kind of emotional. And it was amazing to see him describe this movie, because he actually started writing it in 1988, around the time he did Bull Durham. And he said it was his longtime passion project. In fact, he named his son off of the character that he plays in the movie. And he said it takes place over 18 years. Basically, it starts before the Civil War and it ends after the Civil War. But he made a point to say that it's not actually a movie about the Civil War. And the Civil War is not particularly important to the film. It's about the settling of the American West. And he noted that, you know, the people that would settle the American West, if you wanted to have this dream of America, you had to be ruthless. You had to be tough. And you had to be industrious. That said, also it involved stealing the land of people that had been here for 1,000 years beforehand, right? And he said that the movie acknowledges that, but also doesn't condemn the fact that these people that came were brave and were industrious and were all those qualities that he mentioned. So I think Costner is, you know, he said that his goal was to make a Western classic. He said that that was really what he wanted to do. He set the bar very, very high for himself. He honestly said that he has no idea whether or not he pulled it off, but he tried his damnedest. And I mean, if I'm going to give any director a certain degree of latitude when it comes to making a Western, it's going to be Kevin Costner. I mean, Dances with Wolves, I don't care what anybody thinks, it's a masterpiece, right? Open Range is really great too. Even the Hatfields and the McCoys. He knows the genre. They showed us quite a bit of footage from Part 1 and Part 2, and he's hoping to make a Part 3, 4, 5, and 6. We'll see if that ever happens. And it looks amazing. It looks like an old-fashioned Western epic, and I can't wait to see it. So, what's the last thing I'm going to talk about? I'm going to talk about a movie that I think a lot of you are going to want to see, Furiosa. George Miller was here with Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth, and they showed us a really interesting kind of extended sneak peek of the movie that ran about 6 minutes long. And what it was about a minute from each chapter in the film. George Miller said something very interesting as it was starting. He said that the Fury Road took place over 3 days. right? Furiosa takes place over 18 years, which is very different from any of the other Mad Max movies because they always took place over a relatively short period of time. And he said that what happened with Furiosa, it was an entire script that he made as background material for Charlize Theron. And he said he loved it so much he had to turn it into a movie. So it's Furiosa's journey, right? In this version that we saw, basically it seems that she's taken from her people by Dementis, character played by Chris Hemsworth. And her mother is a very heroic Furiosa type character who tries to save her and is killed. And she ends up raised by Morton Joe, who basically trains her and teaches her to be the Furiosa that we know from Fury Road. So what the trailer does that's very interesting is that it introduces us to a new character that we really haven't seen in any other trailers that have been released so far, played by Tom Burke. This character was originally supposed to be played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen. And something very striking about this actor and about the way he was dressed, he looks like Mad Max. I thought he was playing Mad Max. He's wearing this leather jacket. He's got this short hair. He looks like Mel Gibson in Mad Max, but he's not playing Mad Max. I have to make that clear. So if you remember Furiosa, she's got that kind of war paint over her head that goes from here to here. So that's what he wears, right? And he's a character that basically takes her under his wing and trains her and seems to be a heroic character as opposed to the other men in the movie that are kind of evil. Seems like a really interesting part. Tom Burke is a really cool actor. I loved him as Orson Welles in Mank. I've seen him in other movies that I really liked him in, like The Souvenir. And it's an interesting, very prominent character that they haven't really teased too much so far. And he's third build. So I think it is a major role. So, you know, it's not necessarily just going to be Furiosa's journey against these awful men. It looks like he's a pretty cool, heroic character in some ways, very similar to Mad Max. I don't know. You know, it's funny about Furiosa. I'm very excited to see it. I love George Miller. I think that Fury Road is one of the best action movies I've seen in a long time. But, you know, I've always had this weird theory about Fury Road that Tom Hardy wasn't necessarily playing Mad Max. I always thought that he was playing a character that was like Mad Max, but wasn't necessarily Mad Max. Wouldn't it be crazy if we were watching Furiosa, considering the amount of time the Mad Max series takes place over, and if Mel Gibson showed up in a cameo as Max? Wouldn't that be the craziest thing ever? It seems like it's not out of the question watching this trailer. I don't think necessarily that that's going to happen, mind you. But if I wasn't necessarily 100% sold on Furiosa before, and I was kind of sold because I don't think George Miller can really go wrong, I'm 100% sold now. It looks absolutely amazing. So that's pretty much all the stuff that I saw here at CinemaCon. If you want to see a little bit more, though, if you want to hear about some of the horror titles that are coming out, I suggest you go over to our sister channel, the JoBlo Horror Originals channel, and check out what my friend Lance Vlasek, who's here with me, has to say about a lot of the really cool horror movies that we saw teased, such as 2 movies coming from the Shyamalans. So make sure to check that out and let me know in the comments which of the movies that I've previewed that you think looks the coolest. I'm very curious to hear what you have to say. And don't worry, there's going to be a hell of a lot more coming from me and my buddy here from CinemaCon. Thank you.